So the Chinese believe in a system of yin and yang, like there are two forces in the world. But we Indians are non-binary. So our mythology talks of, a cosmic play of three forces of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Now, same is happening in the cyber world, where there are innovators, who are the creators. You are creating technology, you are creating wealth, you are creating knowledge. Maintainers like us, the police, regulator, and then the destroyers, the hackers, the financial cybercrime ecosystem, the nation states, which are acting maliciously. Now, these three systems, feed into each other. Like, if the hackers are attacking our systems, we are also developing them. And the maintainers are probably helping to maintain the good people's work. However, it's the first time in history that the bad people are winning. In 2020, the financial or the cybercrime ecosystem went up to $6 trillion. This is more than the whole GDP of India. So today, the third largest GDP in the world is cybercrime. Now, what should be done so that we bring this down, we protect innovation, and we protect good people? So, this is where we are, that financial literacy is different everywhere. We have the urban-rural divide, we have gender gaps in inclusion. We have, if you look at the world, I was just telling my friend that I recently gone to Tanzania, and when you go there, it's like a throwback. You feel that you've come back to 30, 40 years back, because what you saw 30, 40 years back when you were growing up, you see it there now. So the world is at very different places, and at this time there is a 5G rollout also going. So financial literacy is different. Financial inclusion is a question, because somewhere you will have to be financially inclusive. And look at India, what they've done. By making finance and technology as a public good, the great work that NPCI has done, they are not charging for any transaction. Who could think that you can run a business, and probably one of the largest businesses in the world, without charging a single paisa? And that's amazing, that they have also created a platform which is giving rise to innovation. But see, innovation is, again, I told you, three kinds. So there are the creators, there are the maintainers, there are destroyers. And there are destroyers also sitting on this ecosystem. Now it's our job as creators that while creating these things, how we ensure that the bad people cannot take advantage. As maintainers of this ecosystem, for law enforcement, we find how we rein these bad elements. And for the RBI to see that the stability of the financial system, the integrity of the banks, and the interest of the customer is protected, while you all reap fruits of this great revolution. Now, high internet mobile penetration and omni-channel presence. So today, I last week met somebody, a friend of mine who had come from the US, and he was surprised to find the kind of payment options we have here. So it's great that, a kind of India stack was created, and you solved the greatest problem in the world, the problem of a secure digital identity. And once that was solved, you digitize the bank accounts, link them into this, jam trinity, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, mobile. It was quite a stroke of genius that India could do this, and at such a large scale. Literally, I'm telling you, as every Indian, we should be proud of this, because wherever I go outside, people want to know how, you have done financial inclusion for billions of people with a unique national identity for everybody. So, and this also has given rise to peer-to-peer lending apps and things like that. And you must have recently heard about the so-called Chinese loan apps. So innovation happens in the positive space. Innovation also happens in the dark space. And therein you saw that people started committing suicide, and there were extortionary practices. And in one case I saw it was also a national security threat, where the Chinese loan app company had a back-to-back arrangement with a Chinese company, and they were taking biometrics, they were taking facial scans and facial recognition data of all Indians. So also, probably a large indebted youth force is again a risk to the financial stability and national security of the country. So somewhere this is all linked, and while at times people praise the RBI by saying that, you've done great, and at times people start attacking the RBI that, you are here favoring the large banks and stifling innovation, but that's the job of the regulator. And the job of the regulator is to see that the balance in this, this world of the three cosmic forces clashing is maintained. And to add to all this, we have Web3. And I'll confess something, I'm not a great votary of blockchain. I sometimes say that I was having cough, I had blockchain, and there was no benefit. So blockchain, I've been waiting for some innovation in blockchain, except cryptocurrency, which probably as a law enforcement officer I'm biased, because it's a headache to us. Even in the Chinese loan app scam, once RBI started tightening them, they took all that money, put it in crypto, took it out. Now go and find out. Go figure. So it's difficult, but not that great difficult. Not very difficult. With better compute, you're also now able to go into mixers and tumblers and also track these transactions. And my dear, anonymity is only on your account, right? Otherwise, you're writing a full ledger. The day I'll get you, you're giving me a whole record of your transactions, not only, but of everybody else. So crypto is a boon for police. The day I get you, my problem of anonymity is solved, right? Evidence you are giving me already. You are creating your own evidence. So thing is that all these fintech is web native. And since it is web native, it easily interacts with the crypto ecosystem. In India, by any count, there are probably 6,000 to 10,000 new fintech startups. And since they are new, their emphasis on cybersecurity, on data protection, on having other kinds of due diligence is probably low. Because you understand, all innovation in California happened because of the California license, which basically means no rules, right? If you wanted to have a driverless car, set it on the road. Nothing is going to happen. I understand, but for a country like India, you can't have a lawless regime because there are costs here. And we are much more complex. Even civilizationally, we are much more complex. If you look at the other civilizations, they are 200 years old, right? Even Varanasi here is a city which has been continuously livable for 5,000 years. So civilizationally, we are complex, we are different. We have grown differently. So they are kids. We must have been conquered in the midst, but it happens, right? So you have to understand that our complexities are very different. Now, what are the issues? So there are norms and standards. During the pandemic, there were some ransomware attacks and some people started asking me, should we pay? By the time the Russian war had started, I said, if you pay, you also check the risk of paying to a Russian entity which is sanctioned, right? So you never know. And nobody also knew whether transacting in Bitcoin was legal or illegal in India. So what I'm saying is that there are norms and standards, right from counterterrorism to anti-money laundering to customer due diligence, which in the rush of innovation, one may forget. But it needs to be, there has to be a sanity in this space. Then also, you want minimum friction in customer onboarding. So that has been done by Aadhaar. It's a great innovation. And I really sometimes feel very sorry about us where we lost a chance in the Supreme Court case. If we could have linked mobile phones to Aadhaar, half of the financial cybercrime would have been solved. I have never seen a financial cybercrime being perpetrated from an Aadhaar-linked mobile phone, because we'll come and knock at your door. Now, we cannot create an ecosystem where we give masks to people to commit crime and then you cannot find them out. So you have to have built-in checks and balances. And somewhere we lost a chance. I understand privacy is a big thing. And there are these questions of eminent domain where people inherently do not trust the state and so on and so forth. But you have a social contract. You gave away these rights to be in a society, in a democracy, and you cannot come outside and question that. right? You are not an anarchist. So somewhere you do not understand that by doing this, you are putting so many people to danger. Now, so today we have issues of interoperability of financial systems, consumer data which is being taken, especially in the Chinese loan app cases. After that, RBI has issued its digital lending guidelines. It's a wonderful piece of paper. And the best thing is that the RBI consulted everybody. So the RBI's digital lending group, it actually talked to everybody and got 800 technical responses and studied that and incorporated that into digital lending guidelines. And they are wonderful. Please check these guidelines. This is about, and I think it would put an end to all this Chinese loan app menace. Because you have big tech here, which was never supposed to be lending money, or you have WhatsApp, which was never supposed to be transacting money. But today, somebody is sending a link of an app which can be side-loaded, which is not available on a Google Play Store, which can be side-loaded from somewhere. It takes invasive permissions, it takes away all your data, then starts messaging your relatives. Right? This ecosystem is outside control. So somewhere the RBI has come and issued digital lending guidelines, which are good, which is a very sane step. But that too, I think, has come slightly late because work on concerns around loan apps started around 2020, where people had already started committing suicide. So issues regarding, all these diverse communication channels affecting the financial stability of the country. See, this happened with crypto. That I think almost 10 lakh crores of Indian rupees is outside on crypto. Tomorrow this bubble bursts, you never know where this money will go. So somewhere you need to have a semblance of regulation and sanity here. And I also come up with the issue of antitrust. Antitrust is like, I'm talking about a large company being also the payment system provider, being everything. Yeah? Like Google is like air today. So when Google starts a payment system, so you see that today, if you look at the volume of payments outside, I think GPay must be one of the highest. GPay, PhonePe, maybe one of the highest volume. Now they have an inherent advantage. So like competition laws, it's also a question of understanding that a large entity like this, which is not an NBFC, which is unregulated by Indian laws, it comes into this space and starts operating. So these are the inherent issues that we are facing. And who are the entities in this whole interplay? So we have the fintech creators. Look at the buy now, pay later thing. That as soon as you're checking out of the cart, at that time somebody gives you an option. Okay, I'll pay for you. For a small fee, would you like to, But see, this was unregulated because till now in India, only banks are allowed. So the BIN number is of bank ultimately. But these practices of sort of taking up this loan, then selling it to somebody were rampant and they were unregulated. And somewhere this needed also protection. And hence, I think some sanity is coming there. Regulator is there, the customer is there. The Indian customer is very eager. So once I was implementing a large government project of police called Crime and Criminal Tracking Network System, CCTNS, way back in like 2015. And my other officers started saying, where is the training manual? And, we haven't been trained on this and we don't want to use this, it is complex. I said, fair enough. How do you use WhatsApp? There's no training manual for WhatsApp. You all use end-to-end encryption, you form groups, form broadcasts, right? You do everything. They say, what about typing? Everybody is typing. Everybody is typing. So you don't need any training. Anything is user-friendly, you can start using it. It's not so difficult. So the customer today is at a state, and somehow Indians that way, I think we are very smart people. Even our people somewhere in India, ironically, knowing English has become also an enabler and also a barrier for a lot of people. So tomorrow when we shift to voice technologies or the vernacular, I think there would be great financial inclusion. Because imagine somebody who does not know English or the nuances of English. For him to read a consent document, understand and sign, I think is impossible. But if you have voice-based systems, which I think are about to come, then, or interaction-based system, this would be very, very easy. So then you have law enforcement. We are the lost child here because none of our ways are working here. Because how we used to work, we knew who the criminals were. We used to maintain a record of them. We used to keep some surveillance on them. Today you can't do surveillance because privacy wale rakshas kood jayenge. So today the whole space of digital human rights is essential. I understand that, but this has also given proliferated everybody, right from pedophiles to financial fraudsters to cyber criminals to a well-oiled international cybercrime syndicate to terrorists. And we can do nothing about it. We can do nothing about it because we have jurisdiction arbitrage. The bad guys collaborate in real time. We were investigating the Cosmos Bank case, and in that case something very funny happened. So one of these mules, money mules, these people loan their accounts. So these money mules, this chap goes and takes out money from the ATM, and his handler is sitting in the car. So this guy goes there and he takes out money and comes back, and he hands over 6,000 rupees. But he has withdrawn 25. He has kept it in his pocket. But that rascal has a admin panel with him in which he has seen how much money he has punched. Look at the complexity of cybercrime operations, right? That this guy has actually an admin panel where he knows from which ATM how much money has actually been withdrawn. He gives him 2 tight slaps, takes away the rest of the money. Now with me, when I want to investigate this, what I'm faced with 20,000 transactions, right? Which happened in 2.5 hours in 29 countries. 20,000 transactions. So even to get an ATM footage from somewhere, it would take me months. Right? To write a letter would never work. To go through something called MLAT, which was, multilateral assistance treaties, which was invented to solve this problem of letter, the average time is 1,300 days. Nobody keeps evidence till then. Nobody preserves evidence till then. So we are actually sort of disabled in this ecosystem. And somewhere we'll have to step out and find out ways. Some very good things have been done for what is wrongly called as child porn, but which is child sexual abuse material. There's an organization called NECMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is a consortium of all the platforms where they voluntarily report, right? Microsoft has come up with something called Photo DNA, where they maintain a facial recognition database of all lost children, all human trafficking victims, and as soon as a photo is uploaded, law enforcement has access to it and they can find out the whereabouts of that child, or at least identity. Something like this needs to be implemented here. While we have taken technology as a common good, why don't we come up with the concept of safety as a common good? So I used to handle this organization called Maharashtra Cyber for 5-6 years. We had come up at that time with a simple website. It was called reportphishing.in. Now the simple initiative somewhere in 2017 was very simple, that when we spoke to banks, I asked them that, do you have a list of fraudsters? People who disputed transactions, repeated something with a number with a high risk score. Every bank came and told me that, oh, we have a monthly list of 5,000, 6,000. Why don't you share? Legally, we have constraints in sharing. I said, can you share it with me? They were happy. We can share with law enforcement. And these are lists of fraudsters, right? People who have defrauded others. Now, what we did was, we combined them into a single database, and we created a front end where people could go and report any phishing attempt. SMS, link, WhatsApp, call, email. You just report it, and we had created an automated workflow wherein a message would go to everybody. And I see that after that, a huge ecosystem has been created by I4C in the Ministry of Home Affairs, wherein they also have a cybercrime.gov.in, cybercrime reporting portal where you can register cybercrimes, even anonymously. There's a helpline number 1930, which is basically to prevent the flight of your money. So a lot is going on. But I call for an effort like NECMEC, that why don't we create a crowdsourced database of fraudsters, of malware, something like Virus Total. Why don't we call it Trust Total? Let's create a Trust Total. And I'll be very happy to work with this. If anybody wants to put in their brains and time in this, I'll be very happy. NPCI is there. If you want to start this, we can take it out. See, once you start, innovate, go outside the realm of rules and laws. Yeah. So then, I won't have to take permission of anybody to do any work about it. So let's create a kind of common repository where you would be able to generate risk scores, and you give a backend to each institution where they can do their investigations. You also give an API of that to law enforcement. The law enforcement can on a real-time basis then start dipping into, because law enforcement naturally has access to customer details, customer authentication forms, and customer onboarding forms, and various kind of other things, and other digital Aadhaar we don't get, but other things you would be able to find out. And it would be hugely beneficial to everybody. So think of it, that safety, security as a common good. Like Virus Total, let's create something. Just as we had created report phishing, let's create a portal where these things can be reported, and then create an API, a real-time API. For example, what Tanzania did? We had these problems with the SIM swap fraud, right? That somebody basically gets hold of your credentials, then calls up your telecom service provider and tries to get a portability request, or you are stupid enough to dial that 18-digit or 12-digit number which they gave, or something like that, or click a link with dials. Now, Tanzania did something very simple. They created a real-time API before transaction, which just used to check with your validated number if there is a portability request or an account change request. Yeah? This stopped the SIM swap frauds. Zero. None. Why can't we do it? How much money does it take to implement this? It's very simple. And there is no regulatory issue here. It's a no-brainer. And you see the number of people you will be able to save this. And see, SIM swap frauds are more dangerous than phishing and phishing attacks, because it is a complete account takeover, along with multi-factor authentication. Yeah? So this can be stopped with these simple steps, where what I want to say is that in this ecosystem, there is enough space for good innovation for security. Somewhere, for safety and security, innovation is not happening. And I feel that is a place where, like RBI is stepping up with regulation, law enforcement and innovators should come together and form something like this. Now, the cyber criminal ecosystem is huge. It's very modular. If you want an exploit, you can just simply ask somebody. You can get an hourly rate for something. You can get, so cybercrime as a service, SaaS, PaaS, CAS, cybercrime as a service. No, this is a real thing. Cybercrime as a service is available today. And on darknet markets, there are credentials and testimonials. And people who would vouchsafe by somebody saying that, okay, this guy does not fleece. He runs a DDoS for $40. Yes, he can give you a 1 Tbps DDoS for $40 an hour. No? Good value for money. So, similarly, you'll be amazed to know that all of the financial cybercrime in the world is run only by 3 or 4 gangs. You must have heard of these names. One of them is so-called Lazarus Group, which is thought to be North Korean government supported. One is Fin7, one is something called Cobalt. These are just 3-4 groups which are running all the financial malware, fake apps, and the ecosystem which is required to run this. So they run VPNs, VPSs, right? And imagine the level they've gone to. Their malware is so smart that apart from creating transparent overlays over your mobile screen, it can also do man-in-the-browser attack, and it can impersonate user behavior. It can copy your session and also use this session to log in with your cookies. So this is the level of sophistication. They do process tunneling, they do process injection, they do fileless malware. So imagine the kind of sophistication that is happening on the dark side. And on the positive side, while we are innovating, we are building a house, You don't expect anybody to run a bulldozer through your ATM machine. You would have seen those videos where people just ram the ATM machine. The ATM machine Bala would have never thought that somebody is going to ram his ATM with, a jeep. But then you'll have to come up with protections. And somewhere we would need to innovate. International bodies are there, right from FATF to big tech. And I have this serious grouse against big tech. Big tech should have a duty to care, right? And big tech doesn't accept its duty to care. You have upwards of hundreds of millions of customers in my country. You don't want to obey my laws, and you want to go by Section 230C of the Communications Decency Act of the USA, which gives you safe harbor. That's it, and you want to earn money. You don't want to look at the customers. You're destroying lives. You're taking away livelihoods. People are committing suicides. Recently, very recently, they have started acting. In last 1 month, Google has removed 2,000 Chinese loan apps. How many? 2,000. What prevents people from again springing up with new apps, right? But where do we have an ecosystem where we are analyzing apps which are put up in real time, flagging them, NPCI, RBI, law enforcement, we can sit together. Let us build this. Let us build this. Let us download the APKs. Let us, run it in a sandbox. Let us reverse engineer it. Let us find out what's actually happening, what permissions are being actually taken. And today the RBI guidelines are very clear about consumer data protection. It is asking you why, where, and what. Why are you taking this data? Right? Consent. Why are you taking this data? What are you going to do with this data? And where are you going to store this? So these are the clear questions which anybody who's using data has to answer. So these Chinese loan apps or any kind of new fintechs, they were not reporting anything to CIBIL or to Experian, because a chap who's taking loans here, his credit score should be affected. This is for protection of the good chap who wants credit in good time or loan in good time. But if people who have a bad credit history want to go out of the system, engage in a dangerous thing, then land up at a police station saying that police kaam nahi karti. So you can't allow everything to collapse and come to something which is under-resourced and not so ready and not so equipped to deal with it as ex post facto. So you will have to build in mechanisms from day one. Data breaches, that is the source. That is the source of evil, where data breaches are being used to stuff credentials, to impersonate people. There are advanced persistent threat groups which are, at times nation state supported, or at times which are well-resourced, organized cybercrime syndicates, which have everything, right from monetization channels to money mules to, it's like a proper corporate operation, where operations being handled by somebody, flow of money is being handled by somebody, bug fixing is handled by somebody. These guys also update their apps and run a real-time, ticketing system on the back end. So it's a very efficient DevOps operation, actually. So social engineering, again, it starts with breaches, and then the whole aspect of a cyber kill chain, which basically, where attacks are now shifting to the infrastructure. From the customer to the processes, attacks are shifting to infrastructure. And infrastructural attacks are, I think, the most serious ones. See, 30, 40 years back, all critical infrastructure was probably within a barbed wire or protected by guns. Today, all critical infrastructure is digital. It's out there. It's out there. So, how does one protect this digital critical infrastructure? For example, crypto. 10,000 lakh crores of Indian money is out there. You don't know what is going to happen. Whether it's going to remain or tomorrow is going to, go for it in a bubble. So somewhere this will need to be addressed. Now, there's a huge infrastructure, and somewhere when things are not reported, things are not investigated, then this criminal infrastructure is not brought down. And it is very essential. Like, you should read about operations called EMMA, European Money Mule Apprehension or something like that. This is a money mule operation which has been conducted twice or thrice in most of the European countries. And there are wonderful operations where they found out people who basically loan their accounts willingly or unwillingly. So in India, when we were investigating the Cosmos Bank case, we found that unknown to us, there was this huge network of money mules. There are people who are unsuspecting, who are shown to be businesses, and then they can get current accounts, right? So then you can maintain the velocity of withdrawing money. And money hops. Today, when somebody takes out a 20,000 rupees from your grandfather's account, the money hops. It breaks into 20 pieces and it hops 9 places. It's like, madhumakki ud gayi. Now, how are you going to trace it? So they have already calculated how your systems work, because law enforcement and regulation doesn't work in real time. It cannot. It's a post facto thing. आपने पिक्चर देखा है, खत्म होने के बाद पुलिस आती है. Change that, man. Change that. So somewhere we need to change that. And there is a huge botnet system wherein infected computers are used. They are used as proxies. They are used for turning processes. They are used as fake DNSs. So this whole system is running, and we can do precious little about it, because there are privacy jurisdictions where you can host something and they will not give you any idea. See, after the GDPR is a great thing. It is protective of data, of the consumer. But with GDPR, today, if I want who is information, you come up with something, you tell me that, okay, this is a phishing attempt at your bank, and it's hosted on some Scandinavian server. I want who is information, redacted. It's redacted because of privacy concerns. Privacy is for the good man, right? Not for the bad man. So the great maxim of common law says that I am the king of my house, and even the king of England cannot enter it without my permission. Okay? Fair and good. But the day you commit a crime, I have the right to breach that door open, bust it, right? Handcuff you and take you out. Not in the digital space. This is not happening in the digital space. I don't even know where you live. So how do I find out? So criminals have gotten a free run today, that they are committing crimes. They are using anti-forensics. They are even killing processes. So wherever we found that if at all large corporate breaches were discovered, all the traces had been removed, because the chap was living on the system. It's called living off the land. He was laterally creating processes, he was laterally creating accounts, and he was removing all traces, wiping off the logs. Even while exfiltrating data, it was using system processes. It was obfuscating, it was encrypting it. Base 64 encryption. Data is going out. Even the DLLs were being loaded, they were being loaded encrypted. How do you tackle this? Because you don't know how to handle this. This is like COVID, right? Look at the kind of confusion the world had. But somewhere, you have to get hold of it. And to top all that, then this whole system of cryptocurrencies, where you can take any money from any kind of enterprise and without any checks, send it anywhere in the world. Then you have, facilities of mixers and tumblers, which are going to mix your money in some way, which is till this time very, very difficult to realize. And this is the dynamics, that there are technologies which have developed. So anti-fraud technologies have been developed. Real-time detection technologies have been developed. For example, you would get a call that now your bank understands that you are here, and within a minute you're not going to get into Vietnam. So if your next transaction starts happening from Vietnam, they understand that you are not a shapeshifter and you have not suddenly developed superpowers. And so good banks can do this, but MSMEs, new fintechs, they may not have a real-time transaction monitoring mechanism or an identity monitoring mechanism through the transaction. Once all that happens, then post facto we do forensics. There are advances in forensics where we have actually been able to pick up malware from memory dumps also. Way back, I'm talking of old cases where we picked up binaries from memory dumps. Now imagine this is your police, which you think is very stupid. You think we are all pandus, we are not. We can pick up, binaries from the memory, your memory also. So, but so-called anti-forensics is also developing. And anti-forensics has developed very well today. That it's very, very difficult to find traces. they are obfuscating it, they are encrypting it, they are removing it, and they are maintaining persistence. Organized cybercrime is a huge, huge challenge, and I talked about jurisdictional arbitrage, in the sense that if I want a simple information from Facebook about an account which is spreading child sexual abuse material or porn, I find it very, very difficult, because it hides under privacy. What kind of privacy is this? Just because you have a home, it doesn't allow you to manufacture explosives and exploit children or fleece old people of their pension. It doesn't allow. It's time that when we are talking of digital rights, we should also reclaim the digital rights of the victims. Somewhere in our concern for rights, we are forgetting the rights of the victim. And going dark is a problem which law enforcement is facing everywhere. So things are encrypted. Even if you get, in the San Bernardino case, the FBI found there was a shooter who went and shot people. He shot, and he and his wife died. An iPhone was recovered, right? And Apple refused to open the phone. They said privacy. Now it's up to you, gentlemen and ladies, to decide if we want privacy like this. Ironically, then you would see, then there would be innovation here also. So there's a company called Celebrite, Israelis. They came up, they said, give it, we'll open it. With all the technology of Apple, they opened the phone and gave it. Yeah, but see, this always does not work. So there was a case called Playpen, where a child sexual abuse material or child porn racket was being run on the dark web. Now the FBI did something very smart. It developed an exploit for the Tor browser, right? And then it sent on the Playpen. And on the Playpen, it infected all of those pedophiles. And then they had a massive operation. They did a crackdown. They caught up everybody. They got evidence. They went to court. The court says, fruits of poisonous tree. Your initial method of access was illegal. Yeah? So we have, law should not be against justice. Law should not be against justice. Privacy should not be against security. There is a midway. We have to find it. And it's up to us. We are innovating everywhere, and we need to innovate here also. So, finally, this is happening. RBI has come up with something very good. Since your data was going out, RBI has started tokenizing. Please go on your bank site and please do this. Like earlier I used to say, please do two-factor authentication. Today, I won't say that today. If you have a credit card, go and tokenize it. Simply with Aadhaar also, go and ask for virtual Aadhaar. So tomorrow, if some idiot, India is a strange country. Aadhaar was never meant to be a card, right? Aadhaar was a biometric identification based on an API. But we created an Aadhaar card out of that. We put our dirty photos also on that with a QR code. And some idiot then takes a picture of this Aadhaar card and uploads it on stupid S3 bucket, which is open. And then some idiot breaches it, and then some French researcher starts saying Aadhaar has been breached. So my dear sir, Aadhaar has never been breached. The basic infrastructure of Aadhaar has never been breached. It's a great thing. Take pride in that. But these things, which are so-called pictures of, stupid documents called Aadhaar cards, which were never meant to be there in the first place, they have been out. Now, Aadhaar also has come up with virtual identity. So it virtualizes your Aadhaar this thing. You can take a one time, you can take a multiple time, or you can take a short time thing. Similarly, tokenization has been done. Also study something called account aggregator system. That is the next thing which is coming. NBFCAA. The RBI initially came up with a circular in 2016, but this is about to be implemented. Imagine a single data aggregator which is blind to your data, because your data is encrypted with PKI, okay? With your private key, it is encrypted, and you have a granular consent structure built into it. So if you want to tell your insurer that for the next 45 days, he should have your credit history or your date of birth, and not on the 46th day, you can build in this consent granular structure. So I think till now 6 licenses have been issued. This is something which is the next innovation, which will solve most of the problem of all kind of identity-related account takeovers. Today, digital identity is what is being compromised. See, with all multi-factor authentication, if there is social engineering, right, you are going to give him everything because you're doing it on his behalf. So With this, there would be, with account aggregator system, where you have a granular consent structure, which is a real-time API, where, it is a double-blind system, where the account aggregator does not have any access to your data. The account aggregator would not be able to do anything to your data. And the banks and everybody, they would also be happy because they're not carrying, today or tomorrow, something like GDPR, PDPR is going to come. Personal data protection is going to come. It's going to be as stringent. So why would you want to hoard data here? You wanted to know my home address, you don't want to use it every day. So you'd be very happy if a third-party account aggregator comes and say, hey, I'm ready to store all this data, encrypt it. I don't even want to know what it is. Once it is encrypted, it won't be used by anybody. So account aggregator is the next big thing after tokenization. AIML is being used for real-time transaction monitoring, real-time session monitoring, for any kind of anomaly detection, change detection, but it's cat and mouse. Because the dark ecosystem is getting to learn emulating the user behavior in real time. Like they are running a browser in the middle attack. They are running an invisible browser in your browser. Yeah, what do you do with that? Or they are hijacking your session or copying your entire session with the cookies. This is sold. These kind of sessions and accounts are sold on the dark web for money. So that ecosystem is also fast developing. We need to, like all cybersecurity, implement a zero trust kind of architecture. How much time I have? How much?
It's okay, sir. I think we can manage.
No, I don't want to be unprofessional. So, behavioral profiling. Way back, somebody was asking me to, I mentor some startups, so somebody was asking me to, evaluate something. Now, this guy was taking 200 parameters from your phone, right? 200 parameters from your phone. Okay, do one experiment. I'll give you a safe site. Go to deviceinfo.me. It's a safe site. I'm not phishing you. Deviceinfo.me. Just by logging into something, look the kind of information that you're giving. It is telling you, telling your location, your operating system, the size of your screen, whether it's a touch screen or not, your browser, whether the phone is in your hand or on your table. Deviceinfo.me, right? This is the kind of information which can be obtained just by logging in. You're not even logging in. Yeah? You're visiting a site. So somebody had created, so people have created these kind of profiling systems which create a fingerprint of you. For example, Mr. Brijesh Singh puts on his password, which is a long passphrase, with a particular, so it would learn for a month, where it would know that with what microsecond delay I use for putting my password. If you put that password, it would understand that it is not me. So this is the kind of technology which is evolving. But see, all this is costly. This is very costly. And somewhere this innovation would also have to be funded. And somewhere there is no incentive for this, right? There is no incentive for something like this. So we will have to, like I told you, technology is common good, safety as a common good has to be created. And for this, we will need to fund this. Entity resolution is happening. Real-time entity resolution is happening today. Technologies are available. And I think we should create a common bed of this kind of authentication, which all fintechs would be able to use. The way NPCI has created a common, payment system, somewhere you should have, apart from Aadhaar, the utility of Aadhaar. You'll have to create a bed of, like an India stack, where you can use this authentication in real time to resolve entities. And finally, transaction monitoring. As I've told you, real-time transaction monitoring for everything, for AML, for anti-terrorism, for due diligence. Because when we were doing the Cosmos case, we found that in 2.5 hours, 85 crore rupees, just went off. Why didn't Visa and MasterCard have volume and velocity checks? 10 years of transaction is happening in 2.5 hours. Why didn't they understand? Why didn't they have, like the stock exchange, the circuit breaker there and understand that they should stop it in real time? They did not. Who is responsible for this? Yeah. So if technology is failing, again we are responsible. I always tell this to banks and fintechs. Boss, you are the one who gave me card. You are the one, who called me up to take this service. I have given you my money. It's your bloody responsibility. Now you take care. You can't call me stupid. You can't call that you are stupid, you gave your OTP. You created the system of OTP. I did not create it. So somewhere we have to take this responsibility. We have to innovate. We have to consider safety as a common good. And we have to look to it that the good guys start collaborating. The bad guys are collaborating. If there are any questions, and if I have time, I'll be able to answer them. Yeah.
Time's up anyways, but we can take 2-3 questions. Yes, please.
I had one question. So, as a customer, yes, I can
So
go
we
to
give-
the law enforcement agencies and report whatever is there. But if as an intermediary I find out something, is there any methodology to report?
Certain has put compulsory reporting guidelines now. It would be normally a cyber breach, right? At the institutional level.
Not maybe at an institutional level. So maybe I found out, say, retailer or omni-channel on the ground, he is doing something which is malicious. It is not me who's impacted, some other customer is impacted.
So I'm not aware of the regulatory framework here, but probably the RBI guidelines would be very clear about this.
RBI guidelines are clear if you are a regulated entity. If they are non-regulated entities like people into DMT, AEPS payments and all that stuff. And if somebody finds, something malicious happening, how do you report it? Can you go to cybercrime and say that, hey, I found out this?
I think you should. What happens, normally what happens in law enforcement is that we check if it is not our subject, we mark it at least to the concerned department. So we would do that.
So
if
any specific generic ID?
cybercrime.gov.in.
We can go to that portal and report.
If you want to report anonymously, you can do that.
Even if it's a name we want to report, we can do that?
Anonymously also. cybercrime.gov.in. It's a national reporting portal. All kinds of cybercrime. Just go and report there.
Thank you, sir.
Even if it is not a cybercrime, go and report there.
No, I am specifically talking of crimes.
I know the back end, they do forward it too.
Sure, thank you.
Please, yeah.
Is that question is a point you made about banks taking your card, but then if money is gone from the banks, then whose responsibility it is? Is there a legal protection for a citizen, a senior citizen, that SMS phishing link that comes?
Yes. So where there is no contributory negligence, there is an old RBI circular which limits the liability of the customer to 25,000 rupees. So there's an old RBI circular. But the problem is that sharing of OTP is considered as a contributory negligence.
If it's a senior citizen,
I know that.
65-year-old.
I know that. That's what I was saying. That is the responsibility of the company which is creating this technology. Right? Come up with something better, man. When you know that old people are being, and you have the, so
targeted to
I know. So world over, it seems that last year, 39% of customers in the digital space, digital finance space, experienced an attempt of phishing, vishing, account takeover, or malicious transaction. 39%. So this is, I'm a law enforcement officer, but this is a big red flag for you guys. You should really look at it. Yeah. Last question.
Yeah. About financial transaction, is there any other bodies we can, because when it is coming ground level, the police station we need to file something. Again, when we go there, then they will say banks, and
I
then
know.
when we go there, then they will say some XYZ.
Banking ombudsman.
Bank?
Banking ombudsman.
Okay.
Banking ombudsman. Report it to banking ombudsman. Even if you report to police for your account related settlement, please report it to banking ombudsman. Right? Thank you guys. साइबर छोड़ के 3 साल हो गया अभी रात को कि यार मेरा 10,000 रुपया निकल गया कैन यू डू समथिंग आई यूज्ड टू हैंडल द स्टेट मैन थैंक यू सो मच